When I refused to be my sister's servant, my mom threw a plate at me. That night I walked out for good. Now they're begging me to return. I don't normally post, but I thought I'd relate my experience because it still seems insane to me. I was the one who kept everything together at home, while Isabella was pampered like queen. I put up with it for years, but things got worse in unexpected ways. Let's just say I stopped playing the servant role, and what occurred next turned everything upside down. So I'm 24 now. But at the time I was 22. So, in order to understand how all of this happened, I had to go back a little bit. My family. Imagine a sitcom with no laugh track, only ranting, guilt trips, and me running around like the household's unpaid intern. That was essentially my childhood. I have one sister. She is 20 years old. 2 years younger than me. And let me tell you, she was raised as if she were the universe's crown gem. I'm spoiled to the bone. If she sneezed, Claudia would reach for Kleenex. Victor pretended it was cute. And I'd be the one tasked with throwing away the Kleenex. Meanwhile, I could get all A's or win a tournament. And the reaction would be, that is nice. Now, take out the trash. I've always been the natural handyman. Lawn mowing me. I'm hauling groceries. Heavy furniture moves me. I drove little princess to her friend's house because she didn't want to walk. Always me. The weird part is that I wasn't merely expected to do it. It seemed like it was my life's purpose. Isabella could literally stand next to me, watching me sweat while hauling 3 bags of mulch, and cheer like she was the supervisor. Claudia ate it up. She's the type who sees me lugging 12 grocery bags at once and cries, "Be careful. Don't drop the eggs. Your sister dislikes scrambled eggs." Victor, forget him. He was always the quiet sort, doing whatever it took to keep the peace. Peace of course meant injuring my back while Isabella sat on the couch scrolling. It wasn't only the tasks though, even at school partiality was so blatant that it was humiliating. When I received good scores, Victor scarcely looked up from his paper. Claudia would remark, "That's understandable. You're smart." Translation, nobody cares. But Isabella only got a D in math, and you'd think she cured cancer. Ice cream excursion, Facebook updates, and hugs in the living room. "We're very proud of you, honey. You're doing your best." She didn't always bring her assignments home. The toughest part was not even what I had to do. It was the way they complimented her on doing nothing. For example, she once vacuumed 1/3 of the living room and left the cord tangled everywhere. Claudia walked in like, "Oh, look how responsible she is helping the house." Meanwhile, I was sweating outdoors, mending a burst sprinkler line since Victor said, "You have strong arms. Handle it." No thank you, no appreciation, I just assumed I'd do it. By the time I was 20, I felt like a live-in worker. I worked part-time at a hardware store while also attending school. But when I went home, I found a list of duties waiting for me. Isabella was too stressed to help. "What is the source of your stress?" Posting selfies on Instagram. The car stuff was another level. I gathered money and purchased my first beater, a 2003 Peugeot. I paid for it using my own money. Within 3 weeks, Isabella was demanding rides everywhere. Whether I had plans or employment, she would reply, "You're my brother. You are supposed to drive me." Of course, if I refused, she would cry to Claudia, "Begin the talk. Why are you so selfish? She's your sister. Family helps family." It's funny because no one ever asked her to help me. And Victor, he was simply invisible. He would only intervene if things got heated. Even then he took Claudia's side. "Just do it, son. It's not worth the fight." Classic. He acted as if keeping Isabella pleased was a national security job and I was the soldier sent to carry it out. Looking back, it felt like I was a supporting character in a play, with Isabella as the star. Every scene swirled around her. All of the applause went to her. My duty was to raise props, clean the stage, and then disappear while she received all of the attention. By the time I got to college, I figured I'd finally break out of it. I had scholarships lined up and a decent chance of establishing anything. But the family found a way to entice me back in every break and vacation. It created a chip on my shoulder. As if I wasn't just bringing their groceries. I was carrying the entire circus. And if I did speak out, I was resentful. That was Claudia's favorite term. "We have given you everything. How dare you talk back? You assigned me duties. There are endless duties. And a front row seat for Isabella's parade." So, growing up, I quickly realized that I wasn't their son. I was their mule. And she was more than simply the golden child. She was impenetrable. Claudia would defend her in any situation. Victor would remain mute, leaving me to take the blame. But here's the thing. You can only push someone so far before they begin pushing back. And at 22, I was no longer the kid who shut up and drove Isabella to the mall. I had learned to play smarter. I wasn't just a mule anymore. I was the mule with a plan. Growing raised in a house where you are required to bend down at all times teaches you to anticipate moves. I knew Isabella was going to pull a stunt eventually. She always did, and I knew Claudia would back her up without hesitation, while Victor sat there pretending nothing was happening. So it didn't surprise me that everything went wrong during supper. What surprised me was how far they went. There were only 4 of us that night. No visitors, no neighbors, just family. Claudia prepared one of her signature buffets: pasta, salad, and garlic bread. I sat down, preparing myself for the spectacle. Isabella sat in her chair across from me, swiping through her phone like the queen she imagined she was. Victor mumbled something about hotel reservations. Claudia was worrying over napkins as if the world relied on their being folded properly. Dinner begins, and for 7 lovely minutes, everything is normal. Chewing, little chat, and silverware clinking. Then it happens. Isabella dropped her fork. Not in a big fashion, just a slight slip, and it falls next to her chair. She doesn't blink or bow down. She merely stares at me and says, "Pick that up." I laugh out. Not a nervous laugh, nor a courteous chuckle. I burst out laughing because I believed she was joking. But, nah. Her expression was dead serious. She even cocked her chin upwards like a movie villain. I said, "Pick it up." Claudia's head sprang up. "You overheard your sister. Don't be tough." I reclined back in my chair, fork in hand, spaghetti almost in my mouth. She has 2 hands. Gravity affects her in the same way that it affects me. If she dropped it, she can retrieve it. Claudia responded as if I had cursed out the Pope. She slams her hand upon the table. "Do not start tonight. Just do it." I point to the fork on the floor. It is right there. It's not like it dropped into a sewer grate. She is not impaired. She can bend over and grab it herself. Victor clears his throat as if he is about to speak, but he does not say anything. He just gives me that disappointed dad expression, which he saves exclusively for me. Isabella smirks with that smug little twist of her lip that she's perfected since middle school. Wow, do you really believe you're too good to help your family? Servants should understand their responsibilities. That word servant triggered something in me. Not wrath or despair, just a cold switch flipped because she meant it. She was not joking. She wasn't teasing. That's exactly how she saw me. Not her brother, but her servant. I set down my fork on my plate. The clink resonated, making the entire table stiff. "I'm not your servant," I said. I spoke in a calm, bland tone that made it plain I wasn't lying. Claudia exclaims louder now. "Please stop embarrassing us. Do you realize how ungrateful you sound? Your sister has had a long day. The least you can do is assist her." I glance across the table at Isabella, who is sitting back in her chair, arms folded like if she is watching a show. A long day spent doing what? Taking selfies? Scrolling over Instagram? Yeah, sounds exhausting. Claudia snapped. She grabbed the nearest object, her plate, and threw it at me. No warning, no hesitancy, simply full-fledged fury mode. The plate smashed against my cheek, and for a split second, I felt no pain, only shock. Lettuce and vinaigrette went everywhere. The sting was acute and burning, and I could feel blood streaming down the side of my face. I stood up, hand on my cheek, staring at her. Claudia was standing now, chest thumping and eyes flaming as if I had just committed treason. Victor finally pushed his chair back, but he did not approach me, just sat there, frozen. Isabella did not even flinch, she just leaned closer, smirking, and said, "I told you. Servants don't talk back." I did not yell, cuss, or give them any gratification. I just turned and left the dining room. The sound of my chair scraping across the tile was the only response I gave them. Upstairs, I locked my door and finally breathed. My cheek throbbed, and blood mixed with vinaigrette. I took my phone, opened the camera, and began taking photos. The 2 cuts, the swelling, and the pile of food remaining on my shirt. Every click reassured me. Proof. That's all I needed. No screaming matches, no needless arguments, just cold, indisputable evidence. And while I sat there, rubbing a towel against my face, I knew something. This wasn't only about a fork on the ground. This was years of being viewed as a helper. Years spent being invisible until someone needed anything. Tonight was not a random event. It was the outcome of every time I allowed them to treat me as a servant. But those days were numbered, as the mule with a plan had just gathered his first piece of proof. After dinner, things became strange in the house. Claudia pretended nothing had happened, as if she hadn't thrown a plate at my face like she was trying out for the MLB. Victor remained glued to his laptop, as if his resort emails were life or death. Isabella just went around with that sneer, as if she had finally put me in my place. But, here's the deal. You can't get away from the idea of freedom once you've tasted it. I was not going to sit back and let them reset everything like it was any other Tuesday, so I started being more aware, gathering evidence, keeping my lips shut when necessary, and refining my responses. A few days later, I was outside in the driveway, working on my car. Hood up, grease on my hands, sun beating down. One of those calm afternoons when you truly feel at peace. That is, until she shows up. Isabella walked out as if she owned the property. She walked smugly, phone in hand, as if she were about to give a regal order. She leaned against the car next to me and said, "You know, whatever you believe, you'll always be my little servant. That is all you are." I washed my hands with a rag and looked at her. A part of me wanted to laugh. Another part of me wanted to tell her to shove it. Instead, I leaned against the car, smirked at her and muttered, "Funny. I don't recall staff keeping this mansion from falling apart. Without me, the entire circus falls." Her grin faded for a half second. Then she leaned in closer, as if she were preparing for a battle. "Don't speak back. Everyone knows you're just bitter because Claudia and Victor adore me more." I tilted my head. "Yes, congratulations. You are the MVP of doing nothing. You've earned an impressive title there." And that's when Mom performed her hallmark maneuver, which usually worked when we were younger. She took a step back, flung her phone to the ground for dramatic effect, and screamed at the top of her voice. "He hit me. He shoved me," and I froze. Not because I felt bad, but because I knew what was coming. Claudia and Victor stormed out of the home, as if they had been waiting backstage for their cue. Claudia's eyes widened as she saw her beloved daughter fake cry. Victor clenched his jaw, as if he were preparing to deliver a courtroom speech. Claudia dashed up to Isabella, hugging her as if she had just survived a battle. "What have you done to her?" she snapped at me. "How could you place your hands on your sister?" I opened my mouth to explain, but Victor heaped on. "You are a monster, son. She's your sister, and you dare to hurt her? What is wrong with you?" I just stood there, hands smeared in oil, staring at them as if I were in some bizarre prank show. I had not touched her, not even near. However, in their view, her word was law. And that's when salvation came in. Mr. Henrik Dahl, our neighbor, walked up the walkway with his dog. He's an older retired Navy guy with a no-nonsense attitude. He saw it all from across the street. He came to a halt at the edge of our driveway, pulled his cap down and stated, "That boy did not touch her. I watched the whole darn thing. She is lying through her teeth." There was silence. Complete silence. Claudia's jaw literally fell. Victor began to murmur something about misunderstanding, but Mr. Dahl interrupted him. "Don't dare. I have been watching this garbage for years. You folks treat him like dirt, yet that female walks about like she owns the world. You should be ashamed." Isabella's phony tears ended abruptly. She merely stood there, caught red-handed, eyes flashing as if she may melt into the pavement. Claudia muttered something about family issues. Mr. Dahl shook his head. "No. This is not family. It's bullying, and everyone here notices it." Then he walked away, leaving the bomb he had dropped hanging in the air. I swear I almost laughed out loud. For the first time in years, someone outside the house spoke it aloud. And my parents had no response. They just stood there, like someone had pulled the rug out from under them. That night, I sat in my room, still contemplating it. Mr. Henrik Dahl did not simply call them out. He validated me, proved I wasn't insane, that it wasn't all in my head. Outsiders noticed it too. While sorting through some old boxes in my closet, I discovered something else that sparked a fire within me. Letters from my late grandfather, Victor's father. I'd seen them before, but never read them carefully. This time I did, and they landed hard. One line remained with me. "Don't let anyone turn you into a mule, son. Man creates his own life. Carrying everyone else will just break you down." I must have read that statement a dozen times, because that was just what I had been doing. Carrying them. Their emotions, tasks, and junk. And for what? Nothing. That's when the plan began to solidify in my mind. I wasn't simply daydreaming about leaving anymore. I was going to try it for real. I started tiny. I opened a secret bank account and saved whatever money I could scrounge together from side jobs. I sneaked into Victor's office at night to copy my birth certificate and social security card. Every small step felt like breaking a chain. And I did not stop there. I contacted Mr. Matteo Rossi, a family friend I'd always looked up to, a retired guy who was stern but fair, who gave counsel without sugarcoating. I told him what was going on, and rather than dismissing me, he responded, "It's about time you cut loose. You have brains, kid. Use them. Don't let them guilt you into wasting your 20s. That stung me the most, because he was correct. I was no longer merely planning. I was nearly halfway out the door. The difference was that they didn't realize it yet. To them, I was still the obedient son, the built-in handyman who did whatever was necessary. So I wore the mask, fixed the leaky faucet, carried the heavy groceries, nodded when Claudia gave instructions, and laughed when Isabella tried her little power plays. On the outside, it appeared that I was still their mule. On the inside, every errand meant another day closer to my departure. However, one of the drawbacks of playing the game is that the opposite side may occasionally sniff about. And Isabella was always the curious sort, snooping through your backpack because she was bored. I should have expected it. One afternoon, I was shaving upstairs in the bathroom when I heard her door bang open, followed by mine. My stomach constricted. She was inside my room. I walked out and caught the tail end of it as she rifled through my belongings. My duffel bag, the decoy one, was half unzipped on the floor. I had planted it many weeks ago, complete with exercise clothing, old sneakers and printed resumes for nearby jobs. Everything is a forgery, designed to be detected. A trap. And she ate the bait like a fish. Her eyes brightened up when she spotted the papers. "Oh my God. Claudia." "Victor, come here." I leaned against the door frame, towel over my shoulder, and seemed to be bored. "Have you found anything you like?" Claudia rushed in, drying her hands with a dish towel. Victor followed with a frown. Isabella pushed the papers at them. "Look, he's preparing to depart. He has 2 suitcases packed." Claudia's face contorted as if she had discovered a criminal. "Is this true? Are you snooping around?" I shrugged. "What? That's gym stuff. I thought I'd finally stopped skipping leg day." Victor grabbed the resumes and scanned them like they were FBI files. "These are job applications." "Yeah," I answered casually. "For local locations. I figured I would toss some out there. You can't exactly live here forever, right?" That line irritated Claudia. I could see it. She began pacing, muttering about loyalty and familial obligation. Isabella was practically glowing, waiting for me to get nailed, but I just leaned back, arms folded, and watched them spiral. I finally said, "Relax. It's called planning. You want me to freeload indefinitely? You complain when I do not contribute. You criticize when I try to give elsewhere. Make up your mind." Victor looked at me, then at the bag, and finally back at me. He exhaled. The classic. "I do not want to deal with this transfer." "Okay. But no secrets. If you're looking for work, please notify us, understand?" "Crystal clear," I responded, concealing a smirk. They left the room, Isabella trailing behind, still upset that her big discovery had failed. As soon as the door closed, I zipped up the duffel, tossed it into the corner, and sat on my bed. Inside, I was grinning. They had no idea that the original paperwork, bank information, copied IDs, and bus timetable to the city were hidden in a shoebox under the floorboard. That was the moment I realized I had them. They thought they had caught me. They believed they were in control. But I was running 2 games at once. They could see one, but not the other. Nonetheless, the scare reminded me that I was walking a fine line. If they slipped, they would tighten their grip even more. So I tightened everything. I began to treat every move as if it were a game of chess. The truth is, I know some people reading this will think, "You're 22. Why not just leave already?" And theoretically, I could have walked out the front door at that moment, but going broke with no paperwork, backup, or job lined up would have played right into their hands, and I had no one to help. I was on my own. So they'd make it seem like I was unstable, or worse, I'd crawl back when things got bad. And it was not going to happen. I didn't merely plan to depart. I planned to leave so clean that they'd never be able to bring me back. Every money I saved, every document I copied, and every step of this escape strategy was designed to sever all of their strings at once. When Claudia asked me to run errands, I volunteered, which provided me an excuse to go to the library, send out actual applications, and check emails on public computers. When Victor requested me to move boxes to the attic, I did so, then utilized the opportunity to hide extra cash where no one would look. When Isabella teased me for still living at home, I smiled since I knew I wouldn't be there long. But the tension was rising. Every dinner seemed like a challenge. Claudia's glances became sharper, as if she was waiting to catch me lying. Isabella began throwing little jabs at me, wanting to upset me so she could retreat and play the victim again. Despite the stillness, my heart would still race. Because if they ever discovered the real stash, the true plan, it would be over. They'd lock me down tighter than ever. The danger was not losing. The threat was identified too quickly. That made every day feel like walking a tightrope. But I wasn't afraid. I was as sharp as I had ever been. One night, while everyone was sleeping, I took out my notebook and began listing steps. Bus to downtown. Train tickets to Seattle. Please contact Mr. Rossi to confirm the job lead. Only bring what you really need. 2 duffel bags were hidden under my car's seat the night before. Every move was meticulously planned. I sat back and looked over the list, my cheek still slightly wounded from the plate. I smiled. They assumed I was confined. They believed they still owned me. But they were mistaken, since the mule with a plan was almost halfway gone. And this time, there was no turning him back. I knew it. But the trouble with crazy individuals is that they do not give up easily. They sense you pull away, and instead of backing away, they dig in deeper, grabbing at whatever they can grip. That is what my family did. It was after dinner, late enough that the house was silent save for the hum of the ceiling fan. I had just finished clearing my plate when Claudia's voice pierced through the air. Family meeting now. The tone was not optional. She used the same one when she found Isabella stealing beer at the age of 17, and when I forgot to maintain the lawn for a week. I sat back down at the table, and Victor and Isabella were already there, waiting as if it were a trial. Claudia stood at the head, as if she were the judge, jury, and executioner all in one. I did not even flinch. I reclined back in my chair, arms crossed, ready for the performance. Claudia began first. Your attitude has been unacceptable. You've been distant, belligerent, and downright ungrateful. After everything we've done for you, this is how you thank us. I tilted my head. Given to me, or taken from me? Her eyes narrowed. Victor cleared his throat. This family only works when everyone understands their roles. You're upsetting the balance. Translation, I replied, smirking. You mean when I act like the unpaid butler and she? I jerked my head at Isabella. Acts like royalty. Isabella gasped, as if I had spit on the Holy Grail. You are pathetic. You will always be the servant. That is your place. I did not raise my voice. Did not need to. I simply reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and slid it across the table. The screen popped up with a photo of my cheek. 2 plate incisions, swelling, and blood. Funny, I responded gently. Since where I come from, maids are rarely harmed for refusing to pick up something. That isn't discipline. That's abuse. The room fell silent for a moment. Claudia's face drained and then turned red. Victor's jaw stiffened. Isabella's smirk appeared for the first time in months. Delete that, Claudia said, her voice loud. You are distorting things. You pushed me first. You provoked me. I laughed sharply and quickly. Yes, certainly. Everyone can see I triggered a flying plate with my face. This is when Victor lost his cool. He grabbed his glass of water, slammed it down, and yelled, "Enough." Then, in one dumb split second, he tossed the glass directly at me. Time slowed. I noticed it spinning, with fluids trailing behind like a slow-motion commercial. It smashed against the table's edge, spraying pieces everywhere. A few nicked my arm and stung. But here's the kicker. Some rebounded back upon them. Victor's hand was riddled with tiny cuts, a piece of Isabella's naked leg. And the masters of the mansion appeared less like kings and queens and more like clowns suffering from their own mess. I rose up slowly, wiping shards from my clothing. My voice came out calmly. There is no movement. You've just proven my argument. You're not just toxic, you're dangerous. Claudia scrambled, hands flailing. There was an accident. He didn't mean. I held up my phone, already photographing the shards, cuts, and mess. It doesn't matter. This isn't just a family drama anymore. It's evidence, Isabella said quietly for a change. There was no grin or swift insult, only startled eyes as they realized the game had changed. I took my bag from beneath the chair, slung it over my shoulder, and stared each of them dead in the eye. You thought you could keep me trapped here forever, but now you've given me every reason to make it official. Claudia's voice was raspy. What do you mean? I said, stepping toward the door. I'm going to file charges. Do you think I'll allow you keep hurling things at me until one day it becomes worse? Nah. This is over now. Victor pushed forward as if he wanted to stop me, but a glance at the phone in my hand stopped him mid-step. He knew. They all knew. The power dynamic had flipped. I strolled out of the room as if I owned it. Their voices lingered behind me, a combination of panic, fury, and phony pleading. But I didn't stop because I recognized the plan wasn't only to leave silently. It was about destroying the bridge behind me so that they could never bring me back. Nothing lights a bridge faster than the truth, backed up by cold, indisputable proof. That night I did not sleep. Couldn't. However, my thoughts was not racing in panic. It was steady and clear, as if someone had finally removed the fog from a windshield. Every bruise, fragment, and photo on my phone served as more than just proof. It was fuel. By morning, I had my duffel in the trunk, my documentation in a folder, and my departure planned out to the minute. I didn't say goodbye or leave a note. I strolled out the door with the same calm I'd maintained since the glass cracked. First stop. The police station. Walking in with a bandaged cheek and fresh cuts on my arm made me stand out quickly. I asked for an officer, placed my phone on the desk, and let the pictures speak for themselves. The cop glanced through the photos, his brow furrowing with each swipe, the plate cut, bruises, and broken glass littering the dining room floor. "You're saying both events included your parents?" he asked. "Yep." Claudia threw the plate first, and Victor tossed the glass second. "I have timestamps, 2 neighbors who witnessed sections of it, and a phone full of evidence. Tell me what that looks like." He didn't debate or belittle it. He simply nodded and started typing. "Looks like assault to me." Hearing it labeled out loud seemed like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. It was not a family drama. It was not discipline. It was an assault. Period. They submitted the report, gave me copies, and promised to follow up with Mr. Henrik Dahl regarding his witness statement. And just like that, the narrative I'd been stuck in for years flipped. It did not happen overnight. A few weeks later the charges were officially filed. And that's when the dominoes fell. By the afternoon I was at Mr. Rossi's house, the mentor I had trusted. He had left a spare room free for me and said I may stay as long as I needed. We sat at his kitchen table and I sipped coffee, and he gave me the approving nod that only old men with military haircuts can give. "I told you it had come to this," he said. "Don't waste this opportunity. Build your own life." So I did. I stayed at Mr. Rossi's for a while, assisting around the house while arranging the job offer. 3 weeks later, I packed my duffel, took the bus to the station, and purchased an Amtrak ticket to Seattle. Watching the miles pass by out the window, I realized I wasn't just leaving a house, I was leaving the entire cage behind. Within 3 weeks I obtained a job offer from one of the companies I'd been applying to. The moment I walked out of that house, college was paused. I didn't have enough time to attend classes while also reconstructing my life. So work came first. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. My paycheck. My independence. No more being instructed when to take out the garbage or who to serve. Seattle became home base. First a friend's couch, then a cramped studio with creaky floors and a view of a brick wall. But here was my brick wall. I cooked my own food, had my own schedule, and lived by my own rules. Every time I dropped a fork on the floor and bent down to pick it up, I giggled. Stupid, yet symbolic. My fork, my hand, my preference. Meanwhile, back home, the consequences were severe. Claudia and Victor were surprised that the cops did not brush it under the rug. They followed through. Claudia and Victor face assault accusations. Nothing felony level at first, but enough to tarnish their records and have their neighbors talking, and gossip spreads faster than hurricanes in that neighborhood. Claudia suddenly ceased to be the queen of block parties. She was the mom who flung a dish at her son. Invitations ceased up. Her friends, to whom she used to gloat, began to avoid her. Victor did not escape either. The resort industry lives on reputation. Word spread that he was having family troubles. And just like that, his managers stopped trusting him with major accounts. The man who formerly strode through hotel lobbies was now reduced to managing regional bookings, imprisoned in a cubicle with peeling wallpaper. His pride, which he treasured the most, was crushed. Isabella has misplaced her beloved weapon. After Henrik Dahl vouched for me and the cops accepted my side, her word was meaningless. People stopped trusting her stories. Without me to fetch and carry, she was forced to live like the rest of us. Work, bend, and sweat. According to what I've heard, she ended up serving lattes at a coffee shop and posting sad Instagram captions about grinding. Reality check, served boiling hot. I didn't gloat publicly, but internally, watching them crumble from a distance was the most satisfying feeling I'd ever had. Not because I want vengeance for its own sake, but because the world finally recognized them for who they truly were. And I wasn't their mule anymore. I was not their scapegoat or servant. I was just a guy, finally free and living. Every paycheck I received, every late-night brainstorming session at work, and every calm evening in my apartment proved I had made it out. They could bleed, whine, and crumble all they wanted inside that mansion. That wasn't my burden to bear anymore. The finest thing was knowing I created it smartly. I did not just run away. I designed an escape so tight and calculated that they couldn't use it against me. I have evidence in my pocket, a job lined up, and my life is waiting. And now that I look back, I don't see a kid confined. I see the guy who played the long game, loaded the deck, and walked away with what they said I'd never have: control. And while I was establishing something real in Seattle, their entire enterprise back home began to collapse from every perspective. It wasn't even me pulling the cords, they were pulling themselves apart. Mr. Rossi was the first to provide me the updates. He informed me he had run into Victor at the hardware shop. He said the man resembled a ghost. Claudia and Victor fought every day. Claudia yelled that Victor had let me go away. Victor snapped back, claiming Claudia was the one who transformed the house into a circus. Isabella was yelling at both of them, stating they had ruined her life because she now had to do everything on her own. The lovely little familial unit that previously stood against me was now eating each other up. The weird thing was that I wasn't even angry anymore, just detached, as if I'd left a cage of wild animals and was watching them battle from the outside. Then the financial issues struck. Without me carrying all of the weight, mending things, paying for minor crises, and saving them time and money on every duty, their finances began to deteriorate. Victor's compensation was reduced due to his demotion at work. Claudia's small social gatherings dwindled, leaving no side benefits. Bills heaped, credit cards maxed out. Word spread that the house was under pre-foreclosure. Henrik Dahl told me he saw the note on the front door one morning. There is no hiding it, it is as obvious as day. Victor had to sell his automobile. Claudia pawned jewelry that she used to wear like it was her crown. When people saw them shopping at inexpensive stores, they looked away as if they didn't recognize them. People who relied on bragging rights couldn't recover from such a setback. Then came the trivial stuff, which made me chuckle the most. Isabella attempted to move out on her own, gloating publicly that she was finally independent. She barely lasted 4 months before going back home because rent was eating her alive. Claudia sent me an email attempting to guilt-trip me. "Your sister is crying herself to sleep, and it's your fault." I read it twice, laughed, and erased. For once, her tears were not my fault. The scar on my cheek has faded to a faint line. I never covered it up. If someone asked, I'd just shrug and say, family stuff. Because the truth was not in the scar itself. The truth was that I had walked away from those who had given it to me and never looked back. 5 years later, I received 2 last emails. There's no subject line. Just desperation seeping into the text. Claudia stated that they were breaking apart, with expenses crushing them. Victor is stuck at a dead-end job, while Isabella drifts. "You're doing so well. Please help us," she wrote. I sat there reading it and felt nothing, not angry or smug. I pressed delete without hesitation, and I knew I had truly won. Not because their lives fell apart, but because I stopped caring. So, if you're stuck in a family that treats you like a mule, hear this. You don't owe them your entire life simply because you have blood. Play the long game. Document everything. Save the proof. Build your exit in silence. And when the day arrives, walk away cold. Do not wait for their apologies. Do not beg for their blessing. Leave so clean that they will never be able to draw you back. Because throwing their comments back in their face isn't the best way to exact revenge. The best form of vengeance is living a life so much beyond their means that they are forced to choke on the reality. The servant was the only person who figured it out.